Hey, you guys. So, just some thoughts that are coming through me or coming to me a little bit ago. It's okay to struggle. It doesn't feel good, but it's okay if you're struggling. A lot of times, there's a lot of different people out there that'll try to make you feel a lot of different types of ways when you are actually struggling. And the way you struggle through things is a thing. It's like if you're a person who, when you are struggling, maybe you don't show everybody, maybe you don't tell everybody, maybe you just ramp it up and get super positive and spiritual and you cling to light work and the most beautiful and positive things you can find because your soul is crying out, is desperate for some light in your place of darkness, wherever you are. Maybe you're a person who copes that way. And people have a tendency, I can't imagine who they are, but assholes, toads, trolls, and clowns, of course, online, and sometimes in your real life, people have a tendency to want to pick at that shit because maybe because you're not showing your teeth, maybe because you're not showing all your darkness at that point. They don't know whether you're struggling or not. They don't know what your darker battle is. They just see someone trying their best to grab onto something light, something spiritual, something better. And a lot of times they'll try to make out like, oh, that's fake. I bet I can get you. I bet I can get you to show everybody what you really are. You're just like all of us. You're not. Who do you think you are? You're not any better. That whole riff raff, trip trap, blah, blah, blah. People who are still on that wavelength of letting it even occur to them that anybody was better than anybody. A lot of us are so busy, like trying to tap into our creativity and trying to figure out what we want to do with our lives and make the fucking most of every day that we don't even have time to think thoughts like that. Like, who the fuck has time to think like that? So, well, there's people out there that'll try to make you feel that way when you know you're struggling. And basically, they'll do anything they can to get up under your skin to, I guess that's how a lot of people would describe uh, personality disordered individuals, narcissistic individuals. There are certain types of individuals that are where they are and they're going to be there. They know they're not going to get out and they don't have any intention or desire to. They're in a really dark, fucked up place of misery and distress, and they want company there. And yeah, they will make you feel like, hey, what you're doing is bullshit. What you're feeling is bullshit. You're not pure of intention. You don't mean anything you say. I can't tell you the times I've even heard this from my own mother. And I've had to understand for a long time that my mother is a very intelligent woman. She's got a lot of wonderful qualities. But when it comes to emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence, I just have to kind of, it's all right. Go get in your knapsack and it'll be okay. I'll get you a juice box. I mean, literally, it's just fucking the way it is. I've always had to understand that that's where she is. She's locked into that she has a personality disorder. And it is very hard for her brain to compute um, depth of emotion and see the real vulnerability and humanity in others. She does it in her own way, and she shows love in her own way. My brother and I had this 2-hour conversation the other day before he left about this, and it's very confusing to him too. He's been trying to understand it. Um, but she's one of those people. And then, you know, they just can't see you're fighting for your life, your struggle, how hard you really are trying and working on yourself, and the depth of your emotion and what all is going into it. And she's one of those people that, you know, just will say any number of cruel or offbeat things, and then, or, you know, contribute to the chaos in the surroundings. And then while you've been, you know, slowly, steadily working on your balance and all this thing, and then once you are naturally, I don't care how hard you're working on yourself or peaceful you're trying to be, naturally, you're finally gonna fucking flip. If everything around you is chaos and that's what you're dealing with somebody close to you, and then when they finally get you to show your ass because you fucking had enough of their dumb shit, then it's, of course, haha, I knew you weren't working on shit. I knew you wasn't about shit. But once they get you to participate just like the rest of the clusterfuck, that's what they say. And it can really be damaging to you. But see, here's the thing. And you know what? I don't have anything against anybody, any of these people. In fact, anybody that's ever even abused me in my childhood, in my early life, that's betrayed me, that's hurt me, I don't fucking have. I don't hate them. I don't, that would take up a lot of my fucking time and energy and rent space in my brain too much. Shit. I've got so many beautiful things to work on and think about. So, you know, and when it's your own parents and family members, you spend a lot of time trying to balance that energy. It's really hard to just chop it off. It's really hard to hate them. Um, but here's the deal. It's perfectly okay to be where you are. And the difference, there is a difference. And they don't like it. They don't like it. It makes them uncomfortable. Even your mother. Even your mother. I'm speaking to those of you who came from traumatic upbringings with mothers who have personality disorders, very high narcissism, confusion, toxicity, toxic family dynamics. Even your mother. There is this energy, okay? That's a different thing. That's a spiritual thing. These dark entity attachments, this fucking energy that a great many of us have to fight for our fucking lives to keep it off of us, to keep our frequency high enough, to keep it from consuming us. It gets in through our depression, through our darkness, through our childhood pain and longing, through our abandonment issues. It gets in through our addictions and all that lower frequency, lower vibrational shit that we cope with life with. It gets in through that, through our being distracted and turning to a bunch of superficial, oversexed, dumb, superficial fuck shit in the world, instead of sometimes at least putting some good in, putting some nourishment in. Okay, the more we dwell in those areas, the more we don't work on those areas, dig that shit up, excavate, what's the word, excavate, dig that shit out of there, get it up, and replenish it with something nourishing and healing. Okay, those are portals. It can get in and attach all over us throughout our life. it's not an easy thing to work through. It's not easy to keep that off. But there are some people that it is permanently attached onto them, and it's been there for it's been there their entire life. My mother's one of those people. I've dated people like that. I've got other people in my family like that. It comes and goes. I can see when it's in and out of them. Um, with my mother, I feel like it's a permanent thing. There are so many dark entity attachments all over her, surrounding her. My siblings and I have even talked about it. She doesn't even do drugs. She doesn't even drink, not a drop, never has. But because of her mental not being there and certain choices and the trauma that she let go on in our family and just so many things, it really honestly makes me fear her. I fear my own mother. And so imagine what a nightmare for me to have no choice. A year and a half ago, I lost my home, my car, my partner, everything. That's why I worked so many years raising my children and being strong and going to therapy and trying to keep my grip, because I knew I didn't have anything to go back to. I knew I didn't have that kind of mother-daughter relationship. I knew there wasn't a family home. There was a demon structure, a structure with demonic entities all in it, of abuse and neglect and horror and torment and manipulation and Luffy Goofy being aloof, my mother. And you know, a lot of this stuff doesn't even start to hit you until you are middle-aged. That's why. And they say midlife crisis and midlife crazies, and that's why I've seen so many people not make it past their 40s and 50s. Especially people that self-medicated so hard all of their life in their 20s and 30s. My older brother passed at 50. My younger brother at 35. And so many other people I've known. My partner at 46. Because when this type of stuff hits you all at once, the memory, the flashbacks, the overwhelming realization that of what you lived through and what they did to you and who they really are, and all of the mixed emotions that are going to shoot through your system, everything from disbelief to hatred to rage to anger to sorrow, all of those things, you will regress back into that space. I've seen grown adults do this that haven't ever worked through their childhood issues, or only gotten to do it for a little bit at a time and then stayed drunk or stayed high, stayed running the streets, stayed up in a relationship all the time, distracted. And when that kind of thing hits you in middle age and you haven't even started any of the work, it's so terrifying for them. It is so fucking overwhelming. And I've already been going through something in my, and I'm in my 40s. But thank God, I thank God every day that I started this work as a much younger person to prepare me for this. And if I broke like I did, and basically this has been my whole life work since I was a teenager, getting put in institutions and going to therapy, court ordered into therapy, and then in later years voluntarily just begging to go to therapy. And everywhere I go, receiving a mentor in unexpected places throughout my life, and teachers and guidance and studying, and I had children. I felt like I needed to do that. So if I broke mentally, emotionally, and spiritually broke like I did last year in my mid-40s, after all of the chaos and stress and death in my family, and if I had the breakdown that I did for a short time, because I knew my soul was about to break. I knew it was coming. Never experienced anything quite like it before, but I knew that God would bring me back. I knew I was protected. I was going to be okay. It was going to hurt like a motherfucker. It was going to be scary. I was going to get impatient. It was going to feel like forever. It's been horrible, but I knew that God was going to restore me to my sanity, that it was just a processing time, that it was an upgrade time, a time to receive spiritual downloads, a time to rid myself of all of the anguish and anger and everything that had gone on that had gotten to be too much. For me, a person who had committed my life to doing soul work, to doing emotional work and psychological work, if it goes down like that for me, and if it broke me that bad to where a year I couldn't even speak words, I could barely form sentences, I was just broken, sitting in a room, staring. Okay. Imagine how hard it hits people in their middle age who have never been able to go to a therapist, or who have never even tried, who have refused guidance and counsel, who have had trouble. They are so ashamed or so furious or so detached that they've basically just made their life one big good time, one big cartoon, one big party, drinking drugs, whatever. Imagine how hard it hits them in their middle age when the body starts not being able to keep up, when the body starts going, hey, you can't drink anymore, you can't drug anymore, you can't run the streets anymore, you can't keep up sexually anymore. When all that starts to set in, imagine the horror. All of those coping devices start coming out from under people in their middle age. So I'm starting to understand that that is why a lot of people really do lose their mind, and they really have this midlife crisis, it's difficult. I had one, and sadly a lot of people don't make it out, and it's been a big fear for me. I've watched it pick off family members one by one, just like the Von Erich family that I talked about in another video. The wrestling family, the Von Erichs, that wasn't their real name, but there were 6 of those children, and it picked them off one by one. It jumped that entity, that dark energy. It jumped from one to the next, to the next, to the next. There's only one of those boys living today. I believe it's Kevin. It went right down through their family, and so the thing is, if you're suffering, struggling, okay, I don't like struggle. I don't. Nobody does. Most of us don't want to. Most of us want to get to a place of balance, of peace, of routine. We know our routine. We're thriving and abundant and doing well. But some of us are in situations that everything possible has tried to block us from doing that. It's like, personally, that's how we roll. In the safety of our own home, where we can relax and make that a sanctuary and express ourselves, and our creative life force can come out. And if we just focus on that, most of us are good. It's when we start getting sidetracked and letting other energies into that, it's when our family members come knocking, bringing those dark entity attachments with them. It's when we get really pulled off track, and then we lose our sanctuary. We lose our way, our focus, to where we can't take care of us anymore. And it all starts out very innocently. Oh, I was just trying to take care of so-and-so, and they were sick, and I needed to give them a play. I needed to reach out to them, and it starts there. And sometimes something so awful can set in on us. Some people are carrying entity attachments so fucking dark and so vile and so twisted. They grab a hold of you and your life. And oftentimes I don't even see it as that person. It is them. They are responsible for it and how it got in there and what they're not doing about it to get it out. But at the same time, it's not them. I've been around people like that, that their soul, they actually had a great deal of empathy. They were actually very sweet, loving, kind people who wanted love, who wanted to love others, who wanted to do good things. But they were so fucking eaten up and consumed by dark entity attachments and trauma and drugs and alcohol, and it just made them rotten. It made them act in a completely different fucking way. It warped them. I've seen that too, you know. So there's a lot of different cases. Different. It's never one size fits all. Um, it's okay if you're struggling. Don't ever let anybody tell you any different or make you feel any different. That that means you're a failure. That means you're a joke. That means you weren't ever intending on doing anything. That you know what's in your heart. You know who you are, and you know what's in your heart. You know what you're working towards. You know you've experienced some setbacks, but you are not what any of those people say. And you have to really, and that's what it is. There's, when I see people struggling, that's not a problem. That doesn't make you a bad person or a joke, or it doesn't mean you didn't mean what you said with everything in your soul. It doesn't mean that you don't have a vision for yourself, that you are planning to carry out hell or high water. But you may cycle through, you may set back several times. You trial and error. I don't give a shit how old you are. You may have to go through one job to the next and cycle through a few things and try a few places to live. And as long as you are working on you, as long as you know in your soul that you are working on it to the best of your ability, then don't let anybody make you feel that way. And they will damn sure try. They will damn sure try. Even if it's your own mother and she's like 70, 80 years old. Some people with personality disorders and dark entity attachments and high narcissism, it doesn't get better. It does not get better. And in a way, I feel for her. I do. In a way, I feel sorry for her. I have compassion and empathy for her. But I literally fear her. Not in a literal sense that she's gonna fucking attack me or something, or, you know, her judgment is still pretty sound. She can still get around, and, you know, she doesn't even look her age. Um, it's hard to describe this fear, and I think that's another reason God, the universe, the powers that be, circumstance, choices, whatever the fuck, it's the last place. It's the last thing I would have ever wanted to do. Which my mother had a house for almost 50 years in the same spot. I couldn't have imagined having to go back there and live. Now that she's in her own apartment because that house burned, I still couldn't have imagined ever having to go stay with my own mother. Can you imagine feeling like that though? Basically all of my adult life, my mother's house has only been a place for, I had three at home. Very, very addicted, tormented, traumatized, mentally ill brothers. One of them didn't have mental illness, he just had PTSD really bad, and he was a severe addict. The other two were severely mentally ill, and all my adult life, my mother's home was that. And she not knowing what to do and becoming more toxic over the years after my father went to prison, and everything that happened to me in that house. Those videos are on my page. But all my adult life, it just became more toxic over there, like a deep, dark vortex. She went into hoarding and all of these negative coping skills to cope with her trauma instead of really trying to crawl out of it and better herself as a person and learn more. Therefore, she could have given those grown sons more guidance, set better boundaries, and gotten something done for the best of everyone involved. But it just kept spiraling and spiraling and spiraling all of those years until finally my little brother ended up being killed in her backyard when the police were called out one day in a fit of his own mental illness and confusion and addiction. He needed medical care, and we don't really know what happened to him that day. But it's not a place that I often took my children to or ever let them stay with grandma. No, that's not something I get to have. That I never got to have. I would invite my mother over once a week, once every 2 weeks for dinner, for visiting, and that was it. We would keep it very surface and, oh, that's neat, and I would make her leave the family problems at the door because I had created my own home with my own children, my own safety, protection, and healing. And if I allowed her to, she would come in the door with all that energy of not necessarily, oh, I just don't know what I'm going to do. I just pray that things can change. I would love to help your brothers and help myself. And no, not with that energy. She would come in with, goddamn fucking son of a bitch and bastard maggot motherfuckers. They're just deadbeat pieces of shit that never should be born, and I don't know what the fuck to do with them. And if I would attempt to counsel her, if I would attempt to try to help her figure something out, she would only go back on it. She would only just go in circles and not stand on anything, commit to any changes, you know. And I feel like in her own way, she would try to show love, but I don't know. It's really confusing having a mother like that. And so this has kind of been the worst time of my life, having to come back to this and feel like I felt as a child, as a grown woman, having to be trapped here like this with her. And working, every day to work my way out of it. I've come a long way, though, from the grief and the pain and the shock of last year and the physical illness it was putting on me. And I've come a long way with my mental and emotional and spiritual stability, peace of mind, my routine, working, and being blessed with a moped. I love that moped. It is my buddy. Not as good as a car. I still don't have all the freedom I need. There's still a lot of places I can't go. But that scooter, that moped has really blessed me because I was really stuck here with my mother, and it was like being in prison, not having my car, not having my own room, not having my home, and even trying to think of getting up and doing well and having to depend on her for anything at all ever. You're in for the emotional abuse of your life. You are in for, so, and I guess in the years that I had my own home, I had an escape. I had my car, my children, my home, my life. I guess I was able to tolerate it more because I never ever had to see her. I never had to be trapped with her. I never had to hear that kind of thing. I didn't have to think about it. I knew that it would just run me nuts. There was no way to save it, solve it, change it. Therapy taught me that, many years of it, that I had to let go of those expectations of my mother and just accept her for exactly what she was. And now that I've been thrown into the belly of the beast over a year and a half, naturally, because of my choices, ultimately, I am responsible, and I know that. I am responsible for why I'm here, for what I should have focused on better, for whatever, I gave too much of myself to caring for a sick fiance with alcoholism and cancer, and lost his child, and giving all of myself to be his nurse and by his side and help my children and help my mother. I mean, really just being a little Mother Teresa. And I ended up having a mental breakdown, losing everything. And ultimately, in hindsight, I know I'm responsible for that. Even if I was doing good things with my time, I'm still responsible. I should have cut off some of those good things and thought about myself more. I should have been focused on my career more. I should have been at work more. I should have had a savings account more, rather than every day, all day, on call, every minute, and once you get that started, I don't know if any of you have ever been through that before, where you're kind of furious and wondering, you want to be this empathic, compassionate person. It makes you feel good. You feel like it's a necessary part of your life to nourish and nurture and cater and serve and love and give that to your loved ones. It's second nature to you, but within your balance, not a fucking crumb over your balance. Within the range of what is comfortable for you, not to ever be taken for granted, stomped on, expected, demanded, harassed, begged, coerced, pursued, none of that stuff. And
you okay?
Oh yeah, I'm on the phone. Sorry. I guess I should have sat on Mom's side. But I don't even know who lives here. Somebody. Yeah, sorry, I live next door. I should have sat over on her side, but it was wetter.
No, you fine.
We don't have wish we had a bigger porch out here. Yeah. Just kind of how it is. I forgot what I was trying to say. What the hell was I saying? What was I in the middle of? See? Oh well, the video's getting pretty long. I'm gonna have to clip it in a minute anyway. If it wasn't raining, I would have gone outside on the curb. It's fucking raining. And we live in this apartment where there's one step on this side and there's one step on my mom's side. And her side was completely saturated with puddles of water. So I came down here to sit on this other little stoop, and it's right in front of somebody's apartment. And they were just leaving, I guess. But it's like it never fails, y'all. I went from being able to film every day. Anytime I wanted to film, I worked for DoorDash. I could pop that phone on my holder in the car and talk as much as I wanted whenever the thoughts came to me. And that was such a blessing. Oh my God. And I had all this planned out. I had all these plans, and I went from having, my own space where I could create and speak and feel at peace and to almost feeling like I'm in a prison. Like this energy, whatever has pursued me over the last few years, does not want to stop, and it doesn't want to let go until it literally destroys everybody within my family system. It's fucking nuts. But at the same time, I can't stay in that energy space. It is a waste of my time and frequency. I can't. It's human for me to feel that way. I spent all last year broken, feeling that way, too powerless to even get up. But in order for me to get back up and be on the frequency I need to be and start to manifest my life back together and put one foot in front of the other and move energy, I have to be in the state of gratitude. I don't ever forget that. And I have to see through these experiences for what they also are in a spiritual form, as far as what I actually needed to come face down spiritually and emotional with my mother that I never thought I would have to. That's why I was telling y'all the backstory and the background. But at the same time, that's what I'm saying. I think God, universe, our whole creation, our plan for our life lesson, it is as it should be. And basically, I have been placed into every situation to face every last one of my deepest fears. Anything that I might have been avoiding, even though I was one strong, machine like, motivated. When I had my home and raising my children and going to school and working and creating it, I was one strong motherfucker. Even though I still had things deep within me that I was avoiding, that I didn't know how to deal with any other way except to just, okay, accept it and avoid. And even though psychologically, professionals may teach you some of that and say that's the best way, cut your losses, accept it as it is, stop expecting anything, just deal with it on a surface level as it is and go on about your business. That may work for some time. That is sound advice, but there are nuances to everything. It's going to depend. And for me personally, well, psychology isn't going to cover what your spiritual life plan is. And when you're a spiritual person, you're on a particular life path. Not everybody may be. It almost forces you that everything psychology says you should be avoiding, your spiritual ascension forces you to walk right through everything psychology says you should avoid and set boundaries with. You see what I'm saying? So that's why the madness, that's why the confusion, that's why the cognitive dissonance and the God, I know I should not be involved in this. I don't deserve this. This is not my life. I shouldn't be living here. I shouldn't be with this person, or I shouldn't be allowing that, or talking. This is not me. I should be creating and vibing and designing and speaking and meditating and peace and all these fucking things. That's what happens though. Logically, you know all that and you've worked on all that, but your spiritual contracts will grab your ass and take you in another layer and a deeper layer and a deeper layer again. Just like when you have bad childhood wiring, programming patterns, and back when you were oblivious to that and you didn't know any better and you were just going after the same people over and over and over, going right back doing the same thing over and over. Ooh, why they don't like me and why they hurt me and why. Back when you were oblivious to those patterns. Okay, well then we all got hip to that in therapy or whatever we did, some of us, and we got wise to the fact that, oh, we're running on a program from our childhood. We're going after the same people that our parents were. We're still playing out a lot of those roles that are unhealed. We have abandonment issues. We have clingy issues. We have um, anger issues. We have daddy wounds and mommy wounds. And oh my God. Okay, so we started sorting all that shit out and getting to those core wounds, taking regular breaks from dating and knowing that we needed some time on our own to truly heal and work through things and get to know ourselves. Um, and sometimes, no matter how much we knew intellectually, psychologically, we still walk right back into the belly of the beast again. Some of those patterns of sickness and darkness we just can't resist. We are just so attracted to it, or it's so attracted to us. It's just, you know, I mean, really, no matter how far advanced I become with my knowledge, with my spiritual attunement, I still sometimes have to watch myself. I still, a part of me will always be light and dark. That shadow side will always be there, but it doesn't rule the roost because I work on it. It doesn't get to dominate me and my choices. Okay? But I will always have dark expression. I'll always gravitate towards darker things sometimes, simply to let that part of myself emerge and set free and release and acknowledge. It doesn't mean that's me. It doesn't mean that I don't have just as much light. But um, sometimes, no matter how much work we've done psychologically for our spiritual ascension, that's why it might look fucked up to everybody else. It might look stupid. It might look like, damn, what happened to you? Logically, this is not how you operate. This is not the track you're supposed to be on, material wise, all that 3D stuff, ego, mind. Where's your car? Where's your house? Where's this? Where's that? Where's this? When it comes to you and your spiritual contracts and what you're taking through, and sometimes it's just like that, and it will take you back through some things that you have been fearing and avoiding all along, and you didn't realize it. Yes, that can happen. Those of us who went to therapy a lot and read a lot of books and studied a lot, and we were into self-development a lot, and tried to live our lives a certain way, coming from trauma in our families and shit, still battling with our darker side and wild side all those years. And it's been a long road to work a lot of that stuff out, but a lot of times it'll feel like it's never going to end. It'll scare you. Like, oh my God, I'm going to get caught by this process. I'm going to get caught in this vortex, and it's going to take me down like it took everybody else. But a lot of times people like that have been aware, been working on spiritual, been working on emotional, a lot of times we get ahead of ourselves and we think we're ahead of it. We can really be fooled in our healing journey into thinking that we have healed entirely. And I have learned that that's why I started this video with, it's okay to be struggling. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, doesn't mean you have failed, doesn't mean you are not going to achieve that vision, doesn't mean you don't have greatness in you, doesn't mean any of that. That's why I started the video saying that. As long as you are a person who is working on those things and you are aware, then that is actually part of the process that other people don't get. That is part of your spiritual process. You are going to experience some struggle. You're going to experience some setback. You're going to experience being taken right back through the things that you thought you had escaped. that you thought all those years that you had healed, dealt with, but you were really avoiding it. I know it's a hard blow to accept and digest because I really thought, that I was a person who had confronted everything, who had dug up everything, who had feared nothing, who got it all on the table. It seems to take a lifetime for some of us, So what I'm saying is, don't lose your way, don't lose your hope. If this has happened to you, if you have had some major setbacks that feel like setbacks, look like setbacks, but on a deeper level, they are part of your process. And there will be people around you that are going to kick you while you're down there. Could even be your own mother, could even be your own family. There will be people that will kick you while you're down there. Now, I'm not talking about you've been giving your family hell over and over and over and repeatedly saying you're going to work on yourself, and you go out and get fucked up and careless and irresponsible, and your children are left and crying, and your mama's worried every night, and you bust in driving everybody crazy. And come on, now, I didn't say that. Which, hey, I'm not here to judge any fucking body, but that shit gets on my nerves when people are so consumed that they have become so selfishly self-absorbed and overrun with dark entity attachments that they're driving everybody in their life crazy. Don't do it. Just get a hold of yourself somehow. I don't know. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about kicking you when you're down. When you're really, really, purely going through the roughest times of your life and you have put all heart and soul of effort in to loving others, loving yourself, never really having anybody to teach you that as a child. You have found the knowledge, you have crawled for it, you have been determined to work on yourself, to learn the things you need to learn, to break different patterns, to recognize them and be that one that everybody might hate for it, but to catch yourself right in the middle of fucking up and enjoying it and, finally going, hey, it's not for me. I don't like the way this feels anymore. I don't like anything about any of this energy, and I'm out of it. Being the one to confront things, being the one to break cycles, being the one to step up and say something when nobody else wanted to. All of that kind of shit. When you truly have put your heart and soul, when all you think about is the best interest of your family and loved ones. Are they well? Are they happy? Gathering them, cooking for them, seeing smiles on their faces. When you are truly that person and you have worked so hard to be there for others. But you've also had to be hardcore sometimes and tell them, no, I can't be there for you. Nobody wants to get stuck in people pleasing because that just becomes toxic too, and it ends up making you a hateful resenter. You resent them for it. So why do it? Oh, I've had to see a lot of shit over the last year that even I was doing, just like my mother. And now I see why I was so hell-bent on breaking that cycle. Now I see why I was so hell-bent, even if it cost me the man that I loved more than anything in this world. And he passed away a year later. I had to set limits with him. I had to start breaking those cycles, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I've been doing it most of my life, in other relationships too. But now, back here with my mother, I see why. I see where she's at, still at 80 years old, with my brothers and all this toxicity in her life. And she doesn't have the ability. And it's not because she's too old. She's always been this way. If she sits down to eat a hot bite of food, the fucking phone rings. If she's going to take a bath, the fucking phone rings. It's one of my brothers demanding, I need you now, they're off their medications with mental illness. high on drugs, some kind of crisis. It is nothing for my mother at 80 to be jerked out of this house up to 10 times a day, running in circles with those boys on their demand. She doesn't have a set breakfast time, set bedtime, a set bath time, uh, just any old kind of way, being torn every which way. But then it's okay if, hey, if you like that lifestyle and you never complain and it never makes you cry and you're surviving, okay. But then she'll come home and scream and yell and curse and just sound god awful. Every little thing when she prepares her food or washes her clothes, God, yeah, fuck, shit. I mean, it's just like this beast in her. And while she's going through it with them, I can hear the stress. Please stop, please. She'll just get really over dramatic, and I'm just like, okay, I see. I see now why I was so driven to put my foot down. I see now why, if you don't, whatever those fucking dark, demonic entity attachments are that are all consuming on the severe addicts and the people down in it, the worst of the worst, and with those portals wide open, whatever is consuming certain family members, those unstoppable forces that can't be reasoned with, they don't hear your cries for mercy. I lived with it. Not only in my childhood, but I lived with it with somebody I loved with all of my heart. It was like whatever was inside of him, attached onto him, was merciless. And I knew it wasn't him because he wasn't merciless. He actually had some empathy. He actually had a beautiful heart and a lot of love in his heart. But the all-consuming alcohol and drugs and trauma and wounds he never got to heal and defense mechanisms and whatever that was coming through him after me all the time was merciless, tormenting, torturous. It didn't have empathy. It didn't hear crying, begging, pleading. It didn't listen to reason. Okay, so, and that's being done to my mother on a regular basis, and then she turns around and it's all these vicious cycles. She doesn't turn to positive sources to help her heal it, to help her work through it, to increase her energy. She doesn't, and it's sad. It's really sad. And I pray every day for the healing of my family. And no, if I didn't have to be here right up under it, I wouldn't be. I would be living in my own place, hoping the best for them, checking on her every once in a while, and that would be that. But I know that there is a spiritual reason why I had to come back here and be right up under this and face this and go through this so that I could thrive again. I'm guessing in spiritual terms, had I not gotten the rest of this up out of me and come face to face with it, might not have been able to reach abundance in the future, might not have been able to thrive better in the future. I don't know exactly right now. Might not have been able to have the knowledge, the frequency, whatever it is that God wants me to have, or whatever my life lesson plans were to come here to do, born into this family. Those are highly important things. It might have been a plan that I constructed to have to finish up the work, to have to go back face to face with it in order for spiritual ascension to keep us occurring, for my frequency to be free. And a lot of times people don't understand stuff like that. They just look at it like house, car, money, material. You're not doing good. You have nothing. You're just a joke. You're not working on anything. Wrong. Way fucking wrong. Some things in spiritual terms are actually running in the background of everyday life, and they are way more fucking important. The work is way more important at that time than anything in the material world. Not saying I want to live that way forever. Not saying those things aren't important to me. They are. Not saying that I'm not moving towards abundance, because I know I am. But I'm saying I have to view it that way, and I feel it that way, that this was necessary first, even though I have come through it kicking and screaming a lot of the way and didn't want to do this. Didn't want to be around this. Subjected to it. And I often feel like, is it more damaging than it is doing any good? Is it going to damage me even worse? Am I even going to be able to withstand this, to make it out of here, to do what I want to do in life? I do have those fears and doubts sometimes. Any human would. But I also have to just relax back and hear that inner voice and that inner knowing, that higher guidance, and know that it's moving along as it should. And trust that I will be fine, and I will be provided for, and I will be taken care of, and I will get to those goals with the knowledge and wisdom and the things I'm supposed to have out of this. But yeah, it's difficult. I won't say it's not difficult. And it does seem like every time I get on this camera, I've heard other speakers say that kind of thing. Psychic mediums, teachers. I've heard them say the same thing about interruptions while they're filming, while they're trying to speak, while they're trying to share a message or testimony or whatever. It never fucking fails, you know, and I just kind of feel like last year I let that shut me down. It broke me totally not to be able to have that outlet. I'm hoping I'll be able to upload this. It's already at 57 minutes. And so I make these for the people who like to put something on and just let it go. You know how sometimes we like the longer videos. We're doing something, we're riding in the car, we're cleaning, and we just kind of want to hear what somebody has to say and kind of get off into that. So I do these longer ones for that. And I'm going to get back to doing shorts again too. But a lot of changes have been taking place, and the eclipse shook everything up. But really, I'm in a lot better place than I was. Believe me, mentally and emotionally. I'm feeling so much stronger, and it's for real this time. I feel very safe in that and comforted in that no matter what or who is around me, I am set. I came through. I really wanted to get into that, what we have come through since that eclipse, what all the spiritual people, and that's where I started at, and I know I got off into my mother, and the fear of, when I said I fear her, I fear what's on her, what entity attachments surround her, and being in a helpless state around her. Isn't that something? Your own mother, your own family, like, it's just the way it is, the way it's always been. And so I have to work hard to rebuild myself, to have my power and freedom and be okay. I fear the chaos in her. I fear what she will let walk in our home, what she will cater to with no boundary line, no protection, no feeling for what's right. And I can't have fear and doubt around me if those are not good energies. But that would make anyone afraid and unsteady when they're working so hard fighting for their life and their stability and their sanity. That would make anyone fear. But that's what I meant by that.